Welcome, my friends, to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today for a fun conversation with a passionate author. We're kicking off the program, like it's our tradition, with a short reading from the feature book. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started.
My name is Lyndi Allison, and I write young adult science fiction, and I'm reading from my trilogy today, book one, called The Lines Between Our Stars. And in this book, my two protagonists are both grieving, Jace for his baby sister and Gloria for her dad. And they're hiking on another planet where they're rescuing alien children. So this is a moment when they actually have a quiet moment and they talk a little bit about their grief. Jace reaches for the compass, but I pull my hand away. What are you using that for? Geometry? I'm writing a message for the next people to find. Beside the summer triangle drawing, I carve Tempest Fugit in the rock. What does that mean? Direct translation, time flies. But the implication is that life is short. We need to enjoy the moments. Then come see this. He takes my arm and leads me toward the cave opening and live this one. We dangle our feet over the side of a rock, and for a while, we don't talk. Without satellites and other light pollution, new stars, ones I've never seen, appear. One by one. I try to find shapes made by the brightest ones. I can't believe I get to see this. Then a traveler in the dark, Jace sings slightly off key, thanks you for your tiny spark. I nudge him with my elbow. You do hear the music. Jace shakes his head. It's a lullaby my mom sang to my baby sister when she got cranky. You have a little sister? You never mentioned her. Jace's face goes white. Gabriella died 5 years ago. God, that's awful. I touch his arm to comfort him, and so my grief doesn't suck me into a black hole again. I wanted to snuggle with her, but Mom said Gabriella needed to learn to go to sleep on her own and to let her cry. His voice drops low. She cried so long and loud, I prayed she'd stop so I could sleep. Did she? Yep, finally. Jace lowers his head, and she never woke up. Oh, no, that's brutal. My chest constricts, and I twirl the stones on my bracelet. The next morning, Mom found her lying in her crib. Sometime during the night, she stopped breathing. No one knows why. My tears well up. Don't cry now, I tell myself. Listen to Lyra. In my head, I sing, then the traveler in the dark, thanks you for your tiny spark. I swallow, somehow manage to talk. Gabriella's death wasn't your fault. Jace jolts like my words pierce his heart. He snorts, wipes his nose with the back of his hand, and exhales. Draca sits on the other side of Jace. I've never seen her sit still before. Do dragon snakes grieve? When Daddy died, people said I wouldn't always feel so sad. I lean into Jace. I don't tell him his grief will pass. It won't. I feel the pain of living without Dad every day. We sit, quiet, feet dangling, staring at the sky. A star shoots, leaving a trail of light behind it. Some people say we become stars when we die, and we light the way for weary travelers. Others say we become guardian angels. Maybe watching the stars and hanging together will help Jace feel better, like being with Uncle Bri does for me. It has to. One of the Greek myths says, if you're courageous, Zeus will let you choose what constellation you will become. Did Orpheus, the musician, choose to be near his heart? Or Orion to wear a hunter's belt? What would Jace choose? A compass to help people with their geometry? An equation to inspire earthlings to solve great mathematical problems? What about artists? Do they stay behind to draw the lines between our stars?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. I am thrilled and hope you guys enjoyed that reading as much as I did. We're going to get started with this episode because it's another amazing author coming in here sharing these powerful books with us. If you're new to the podcast, remember, my friends, go ahead, subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode. And if you didn't know, we're doing the live recordings of the episodes can be cut by being part of a Patreon community. So go ahead. Don't waste any time. Join that group and just continue to follow and support us. So we're going to get started. Hello, Madame. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I am so glad you're in the podcast. Thank you. Thank you. It's been crazy to connect, but I'm glad it happened. So welcome again.
Thank you. And I guess today was the day we were to connect, and I'm glad it's happened.
It works out. You have an amazing journey, and you're doing all this other stuff that I can't wait to talk to you a little bit about. But let's start with this book. Where did this story come from? Where did it all came together? Tell us a little bit more about this.
Well, there were a few things that brought the story together. It actually was a seed was planted in me many years ago when I was directing a camp in backwoods, New Brunswick in Canada. And one night while stargazing around the campfire, the teens, they started to talk to me about their losses and their grief. There was just something about hanging outdoors together in the moonlight and stargazing that made them, I think it made them feel safe. And then they shared their concerns. But I was struck by how challenging it was to help youth who grieve. And many of their parents were also grieving too. So it was hard for them to support them. So I was inspired to write the Summer Triangle trilogy and later the Winter Hexagon trilogy. This was my way of storytelling because I found that in storytelling, often we could find ourselves in the stories and we could read about how other characters experience same things we went through, and it can be helpful to us. So in my trilogies, my co-protagonists are both grieving. Gloria grieves her dad, who died in an accident when she was 6, and Jace grieves his baby sister, who died for no apparent reason. But later he learns that it was a crib death and the cause was likely some undeveloped part of her brain. Then when I was teaching high school in my grade classroom, we explored a lot of creation and other myths. And then my students wrote their own. And they seemed to be able to glean a lot of understanding from the stories, learning where they come from, kind of help them determine where they were going. And so since we were learning Greek mythology at the time, I made Gloria a Greek mythology nerd who studied the constellation myths. And she uses those to guide her in the story. So for instance, on a planet in the Lyra constellation, Gloria can hear Orpheus's harp play, and she writes the lyrics to his music. Later on in the story, her song becomes really instrumental when they battle with their greatest enemy. So that's a little bit about some of the thinking beforehand.
I love all the different pieces you're bringing into these books. And I also love the inspiration of coming from a place of how do we grieve and how do we evolve from it and kind of being able to give that back to children because that's really a hard process. We don't have a lot of books dealing with grievance. So I appreciate it very, very much. When you put these books together, what was the reactions by the young adults? Because this is one of those books that they can connect at that essence level.
Yes, it's been interesting to hear. I had my students in mind when I wrote, and it's really seems to be the right read for that age group. They were looking for compelling stories, but maybe ones that weren't too long. And I'm finding like a lot of younger males are the ones who I'm hearing from in terms of the story. And I think it's really important because we've had a little bit of disparity between girls and boys and their emotions. And I really like to delve into that and explore that in the story because, as we all know, young men, they experience a lot of deep emotions too. And sometimes they don't have the vehicles for expressing them. And some of the other things that have made me very happy about it is I've had parents thank me for their young sons that are reading the book. And I'm hoping it's because that one aspect of emotions and recognizing that they're able to connect on that level. I actually had one dad ask me if I would write him into one of my stories. And I said no, but I'd write his son in.
That's pretty funny. One of the things I have found out when it comes to books, especially ones that open up these doors for communications between parents, is easier to discuss a book and those emotions than it is to let's put our feelings out there and people kind of like, oh, we're not ready for this. So that is a beautiful journey for any, especially any parents who's listening. Who's like, what books can I get my kids so we can start talking about it? This is a great series. You got two series going on. Do you have a favorite?
In the first trilogy, my favorite was the third book, and it was about a Pan tribe, which is a tribe of satyrs. So half goat, half human, just like the myth. And both Jace and Gloria are confronted with their inability to embrace the culture. And I think that that's something that's very good to learn. So in the culture there, they don't use weapons to defend themselves. And so when their enemies come against them, there's a little bit of a clashing of cultures because they want to defend the children from the enemies who are trying to poison them. And of course, Jace, having lost a baby sister and not having been able to help him, he's driven to do that. And so it complicates things. He really wants to be a help, but he complicates things in the end, and then an additional enemy rises up. So they have more to solve. So I really liked writing that one because I think it's really important to be able to learn to see things from a different point of view and to value another culture, but also stand up for what you believe in. So he's got this own clash going on inside of himself. And then the one I'm enjoying in the Winter Hexagon trilogy, I'm just at the sending it to my editor stage. In this case, the teens, Jason and Gloria, actually enter the myth. So they are on board the Argo with the Argonauts. And the story arc's a little different in this one. They are traveling to different planets to find seeds that will heal Jace's mom's cancer. So he's dealt with the loss of his sister, and now he's looking at the loss of his mom. And so the gods on board are helping them to get, I guess you would call it, their golden fleece, which are these seeds that will heal her. But they're just full of antics. And of course, Jace is very purposeful in what he's trying to do. And so even though the gods are along to help, sometimes it kind of messes them up. So I'm just having a lot of fun playing with it. And plus, there's this really cool little AI robot in that one who struggles with language. And he certainly doesn't understand the nuance of language or body language. He's always saying the wrong thing. And the teens are trying to get him not to create trouble by saying something he shouldn't.
The dynamics that you're bringing on board is really fun. I like the fact that everything takes place in space. It's another world. You're doing a lot of science fiction as well as with a young adult. So that combination is really, really fun. And they're always traveling. So I want to bring us back into your life now because you have a blog. Can you tell us a little bit about your blog and when did you started it?
My blog is twofold. So just a couple of years ago, I started interviewing, doing what I call author Q&As. And when I meet an interesting author like yourself who writes quirky characters, I'm halfway through the first book in Intern Diaries. And what you've shared in that blog is it's just such a reality in your book. I'm so glad that I picked it up. But I ask authors to share a little bit about their writing journey and also their publication and marketing journey so that other writers can read along, glean some insights, maybe see if there's something helpful. And then there's a personal aspect to it too. So those are more what I call my musings. And I'm a nature girl. I like to walk the beach in the morning. I like to hike the mountains. And I'm very, very fortunate to live right between the beach and the mountains. So I can do both those things. And I call those my musings of either a mountain hiking author or a beach walking author. And I usually relate the things that I find in nature to my writing journey. And I just shared one today about forest bathing in the jungle and how that has reaffirmed for me my love of nature, but also my desire to bring other writers to natural spaces where they can write. Because I just feel that it gives the author life, it gives their writing life. It's fresh. And there's a freshness that comes with it, a healing to the body and the soul, and that comes out in their later writing. I'm having a lot of fun with the blog right now.
Your blog is always very interesting. You bring this unique perspective and you have a blast. I think that's the best part about having a blog is that your energy and your passion comes across. Because sometimes I think it becomes very structured and people tend to not have as much fun as when they started. So for any writer who's looking to actually start this, they want to write or they want to start a blog, what advice would you give them?
I think the important thing to do is to remember that writing is a journey and it's a little bit of a process. So I think it's great to learn from the journeys of other authors. I think it's good to listen in on webinars and learn everything you can. But then to remember that you have your own unique voice and you have your own unique journey. And it's not going to be exactly like the other authors. And there are going to be people who like your writing, probably a few who don't. And that's okay. You know, if you're writing from who you are and what's in you to write, you will find the people who connect with what you're writing. So be patient and share your journey with other writers and community, and they will also support you along the way.
That's such a good advice. Find your own voice and enjoy it and be okay with it. With that same mindset, what is one lesson you learned that you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming?
Well, probably there were a few, but I think for me, it's been the learning the marketing piece. It's like a whole new learning curve. I spent a lot of time learning writing craft and practicing, learning how to publish it because I'm an indie publisher. But the whole marketing side, it's a new journey altogether. And it's not necessarily like my forte. There are times when I feel creative and I enjoy it. And I share about my book and I try to do it in creative ways. And I try to give value like on my Instagram or Pinterest or any of my social media. But I asked someone like, what am I doing wrong? And I said, well, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's that you need to do 10 times as much of it. And I'm like, oh, wait, I'm a little bit of an introvert. So to continually put myself out there, I thought I was doing quite well. So I'm going to have to ramp up my game on the whole marketing side so I can make a few more people aware of what I'm writing.
You said 10 times more, and I'm like, oh, I might die. That's a lot. So my heart goes out to you. You can do this because I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm already tired. I don't even know what to tell you. So, Madam, tell us, what are you working on now? What can our listeners expect from you?
I'm working on a couple of things. I'm finishing up book 3 in the second trilogy. I have also written a journal for young writers that was called Creative Constellations that uses all kinds of celestial objects and song lyrics and poems on that topic to inspire young writers. So I'm working on a second one based on the second trilogy, and it'll be on different aspects of nature that inspire our writing. So it's coming right from who I am, and I'm enjoying that. And in the past, I have written some adult short stories, flash fiction, personal essays, a poem or two. So I've been collecting them together in an anthology, and I'm thinking of publishing an anthology with some previously published materials, but also with some new materials, because they were all very much on a theme. But that will be for adult readers.
Awesome. I love it. So, Madam, tell us, where can our listeners find you? Where can they find the books? Where they can learn more about you and the blog?
Well, everything you can find, like my blog, my resources, my books, all on my website called tranquiloretreat.com. That's a home where we advertise a little casita for writers to come to Panama and write and come on some of these nature treks with me. Everything is collected there, but I'm on all the social media, probably don't need to be on everything, but LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm not on TikTok. And I'm on those as Lyndi Allison or Lyndi Allison Author. Or my email is Linda, and that's with a Y. Lyndi's Lyndi, NDI and Lynda is Lynda at thewordtour.com. And I love to hear questions. I've started a little Facebook group for young writers called the Creative Constellation of Teen Writers. I'm just looking for young people who have stories in them to tell so I can encourage them. So if you want to connect, I'd love to hear.
Ooh, I love it. Make sure you guys sign up for this amazing author, blogger. If you don't want to miss a thing, check out the newsletter, check out everything she's going on. Samantha, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure, go for it.
All right. Easy peasy. Don't think too hard about it. Let's see how you do. Water or soda?
No soda for me. I'm definitely all water. In tropical countries, you just can't drink enough of it.
I agree with that. Candlelight dinner or breakfast in bed?
Totally candlelight dinner. When I wake up, I'm out of bed. I'm doing my thing. Candlelight is the way to wind down the night.
This might be a little difficult because you're not in a skiing country, but let's see, skiing or swimming?
Definitely swimming. But if I could choose hiking, that would be my go-to.
Here's the last one. Let's see how you do with this one. If you were stuck in a deserted island, what 3 things would you like to have with you?
My journal, a pen, and water.
Not bad. It has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Any closing remarks for us?
Just that I can't wait to read the rest of your series, being halfway through your first book. And just the idea of death showing up at your door and inviting you to work for them intrigued me, hooked me, and it's keeping me reading too, because we're really getting into what this job is all about.
Oh, thank you so much.
Recommend others read your books.
They will have a blast trying to figure out what poor Isis is all about. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. Congratulations on all your success. To our dear listeners, make sure to follow the fabulous Miss Lyndi. Make sure you don't miss her newsletters and her blog. Check it out. If you're new to the podcast, go ahead, subscribe. You don't want to miss. Share with a friend. Tell them to join us. We're always better when we're growing together. And if you want to see the unedited videos of the podcast, go ahead, join the Patreon tribe. We're here. You're going to love it. Until then, I'll see you guys again next week with another amazing author. Bye, everyone.